So today, we are going to talk about whole life insurance policies and particularly the design. How can you design a policy for maximum cash value? What we will discuss is a question that comes up quite a bit, typically with individuals who are interested in a new whole life insurance policy. They're trying to make sure they get everything set up properly. And the question is, how much of my money should I direct toward my base premium? And then how much of my money should I direct toward my PUA, which stands for Paid Up Additions Rider? We'll go through the differences between those two, and then we'll hit on that question, or we will answer the question as far as how much of my money, again, should I put toward the premium, and then how much toward PUAs. I'll talk about what maximizes the cash value for the consumer, the policyholder, based on the guaranteed values, the non-guaranteed values. And then also we'll look at some actual performance of a policy that was issued a long time ago, before I even got into the industry actually. And you can see what was illustrated with the dividends and then what actually happened. So let's get on into it and have some fun, because this is a really good topic to discuss. So what we're going to look at is a case study. This actually came from a recent comment we received on our YouTube channel. Thank you for your comments very much. Which is funding a policy for 10 years. What we're going to look at from a dollar amount standpoint is $100,000 per year. Very easy number. Just when we look at the percentages as far as how much is going toward premium and then toward PUAs, $100,000, round a number, very easy to follow. What we'll look at is the same insurance company, the same insurance product, the same funding, so $100K per year for 10 years, but what will be different is the policy design. So to be specific here, we've got policy A, which we have a 10/90 split. Now, when I say 10/90 split, what that refers to is the 10 represents 10% of my payment is allocated toward the premium, and then 90% is allocated toward my PUA rider, which stands for Paid Up Additions Rider. Now, the base premium, how this works with a whole life insurance policy, it will depend on the company and product you select, but typically what you'll see, premium dollars do not show up in cash value in the first year of a policy, and sometimes the first and second year. Again, this does depend on the company and product you select, but the product we're going to look at today, if you have a $10,000 base premium, in the first year, you'll see about $300 of the $10,000 show up in cash value in the first year. Very, very small amount. Beginning the second year, however, you'll start to see those premium dollars come back to cash value. The premium purchases you an initial whole life death benefit. So you see a large dollar sign here because the premium dollars do buy a large death benefit. Now, our PUA rider, which I often like to refer to as a cash dump-in, money we pay here, we see show up in cash value. Typically, you will see between 90 and 95% of whatever that PUA payment is show up in cash value immediately. So it is not 100%, which a lot of times we think that is when we hear terms like cash dump-in, which I just used, but there are fees that are associated with PUA riders. So again, typically you'll see 90 to 95% of your PUA payment show up in cash value, but the Paid Up Additions Rider is the key to accelerating the cash value growth of a whole life insurance product. Now look under the death benefit, and is the dollar sign, the blue dollar sign, is that smaller or larger than the red one? It's smaller. And the reason why is because PUA dollars, when you add PUAs to your policy, most people always think cash value, but it does buy you some death benefit. Depending on your age, when you add funds into PUAs, you're going to see 2x to 3x on average of whatever your PUA payment was purchased an additional whole life death benefit. We'll go through the illustration and you'll see how it works as well. We're going to pull up numbers in a little bit. But my point here is, here we've got a design where we are minimizing the insurance premium, which minimizes that upfront hit, and then we're paying more money into this Paid Up Additions Rider in order to maximize the cash value. What I am a firm believer in is having awareness of the limits that an insurance company offers, or multiple insurance companies. When I say limits, specifically this: how much will an insurance company allow you to add to PUAs into a whole life insurance policy in addition to your base premium? Some companies use a dollar amount, such as $500,000 per year or a maximum of $2 million per year. Some companies use a multiple. Often you'll see 10x, whatever the base premium is, can be added into PUAs on a yearly basis. Sometimes a term rider will impact that. Different companies and products will have different limits, but having awareness of what the limits are will prevent buyer's remorse. Where people often get upset is when they request a whole life insurance policy to be set up for high cash value. They ask their agent, is this maximized for cash value? They get the answer yes, or something like, as far as I know, yes, but then they're not shown options that actually deliver more in cash value. So having awareness on what the limits are, specifically, whatever your base premium is, how much more can I add in PUAs? That's what I want to know before asking about the MEC. If an agent says, well, it'll MEC if you add too much, like, I don't care about that. Tell me what the limits are first, because then once you've got that, how you can prevent a MEC is with a term insurance rider, which we'll look at designs with that. So total funding here, $100K per year for 10 years with that $10,000 base premium. You'll actually see the total premium in term insurance rider is $10,000. Then we will look at option B, which will have the same $100,000 per year going in, but you'll see a 30% premium. $30,000 of the 100 is directed toward the premium. So in the first year, that $30,000 does not show up in cash value. So whatever your base premium is with the product we're looking at, that portion will not show up in cash value in the first year. The second year, it begins to come back and gets better and better each year, but the higher that is, the further behind I am on day one. But the higher the base premium is, the higher the whole life death benefit is as well. Then we've got the PUA payment. So if it's $70,000, we'll see the majority of that show up in cash value immediately. And there's our total funding at $100,000 per year. If you're brand new to this and you're seeing how premium and PUA dollars work, in your mind, which one would result in more cash value? Option A or option B? Option A, because I'm reducing the premium piece, it does not give me cash value right out of the gates. Now, if I were to ask you the question, between option A and option B, which one would I, an insurance agent, be incentivized to sell? Option B, the higher the base premium is, the higher the commission is, no matter how you slice it. You will see that with any insurance company and any insurance product, base premium dollars are the primary driver of agent compensation, both on the upfront commission and renewals. When you look at the renewal commission compared to PUA commissions, which are very small. We've got videos that go through that. But to answer that question, which one would I be incentivized to sell? Option B. Which one gives you more cash value though, just based on this logic here? Option A. So an argument we sometimes hear, and what we've gotten asked a few times now, is why would I go with the higher base premium outside of an agent wanting more commission? Because that's not always the case. At least I do not believe that's the main reason why individuals push higher base premiums. An argument we've heard for a long time is because of how the dividend works, particularly on base premium dollars. So we're going to talk about what should happen, what has happened, and the guaranteed values, not in that order. But the argument, again, has to do with how dividends are applied to base premium dollars. Because when you look at dividends and how the insurance company will apply them, you will see a different dividend applied to base premium dollars and PUA dollars. It's the same rate, but when you look at how the formula is broken down, meaning how companies will actually give a dividend payout to a policyholder, you'll notice it is higher on base premium dollars, which does not mean that your cash value will be higher, by the way, because the guarantees are excluded from that dividend payout. But the argument is then this: if I go with the higher base premium, that means I have a higher dividend payout, which should result in more money long term, especially if this happens, if dividend rates increase, well then this should give me even a greater advantage. Remember, if dividends increase though, the increase is going to occur both with the base premium and dollars I add to PUAs. But what should happen here? Well, if dividends increase, it is true that the dividend you receive from the insurance company should be higher if you have a higher base premium. That should happen, keyword there. What has happened? We're going to look at a historical policy, but in all of my experience, I have not seen that to be the case. Specifically, when we look at policies with a higher base premium, they illustrate higher dividends, they illustrate greater long-term cash value, but then when reality hits, we often see less money for the policyholder. And that's one of my worst fears, by the way, to put someone in a policy hoping that they have more money long-term or saying you should have more money long-term, Mr. Policyholder, but then they don't because of things that perhaps I was not aware of as the agent. But the fact of the matter is they went with a higher base premium, hoping, keyword hoping, that they would have more long-term, but then it didn't happen. So if you take that policy out, you go with a higher base premium instead of a lower base premium, you hope that you'll have more money long-term, but then it doesn't happen. You look back and say, I should have went with option A because that delivered more money short-term and long-term based on reality. Steve recommended B, and he made more money on it. What are your thoughts and feelings toward me now? Like that's, when I go back to my fear there, like that's it right there. That's what I don't want for anyone, for myself or anyone else, because that'll cause issues. So we'll look at what has happened. And then also the guaranteed value. So let's take a look at the numbers here. And before we just dive into the Excel workbook, let's look at the illustrations. So first we'll look at that 10% premium example, that 1090 design. So what do we see here? When we take a look, 100K per year for 10 years. Let's scroll down a bit actually. What do you notice? There's your funding. And we can fund it longer, by the way, especially if we're just going to pay the premium or something like that. But the plan here was 100K per year for 10 years. Where's the money going? Here's your base premium. Here is the cost of the term insurance rider. So when you add those two together, it's just about $10,000. A little bit more initially. What you'll find actually is the term rider. It's a 1-year renewable term rider, so the costs increase every year. However, the death benefit decreases every year. So the net cost actually goes down. To simplify, base premium plus the term is about $10,000 in this example. So the minimum commitment here is approximately $10,000. So if this is your policy, you can commit to those two. 10,000, the true minimum might be 10,500 or 11,000. You can commit just to that and then add more funds to your paid up additions rider at your discretion. So if you don't want to be billed for the full $100,000, you can set it up in that manner. But look at your first year cash value, just about 88%. There's your break-even point between years 3 and 4. Year 4 payments of $100,000 equals $400,000, and you've got $403 in cash value. Okay, in year 10, 1.163. Keep in mind this column. Same product. What's different about it? Look at the top right. Base premium is now at $30,000. This one, we were actually able to design with a much lower death benefit initially. The reason why is because that high base premium buys me more whole life insurance, so I don't need as much term insurance here. So we were able to reduce the term rider, which expires very quickly. The cost is minimal. So the minimum is just over $30,000 in this example. And you've got $70,000 directed toward the PUA. Here's your cash value right out of the gates, $68,000 and change, almost $69,000. When was the break even in the last one? Year 4, with that 10% base premium. You had paid in a total of $400 and you had $400. Not the case here. It's year 6 in this particular example. There's year 10. And there's the dividend column. If you kept the last example in mind. If you didn't, that's okay. We're going to look at a side by side. So we'll look at these two side by side, and then we'll look at the guaranteed values and then that actual policy I had mentioned. So here we go. Here's the two samples. On your left, you've got the 10% premium. And on your right, you've got the 30% premium. So we got the minimum there, 10K, with the base premium and term combined. And this one was a little bit more than 30,300. Annual funding is the same. I remember speaking with someone I used to work with many years ago. We were talking about policy design, and he said, it's the same out of pocket to the client. Like if they're funding 100K per year and 10% of it goes toward base premium or 100% goes toward base premium, like they're writing the check for the same dollar amount at the end of the day. The only difference is depending on where the agent directs that money, more or less will show up in cash value, especially right out of the gates. But what do you notice about this? Year 10, which one has more value? We can create a cash value difference column here. I don't have to. The one on the left, you've got 1.16 compared to the one on the right. You've got 1.12. It's about a $40,000 difference. What do you notice about that column in purple? This was the dividend on the illustration. This is that dividend column. The example with $40,000 less in cash value has a higher dividend. Now, if you scroll down over time, that dividend will eventually result in, let me do it this way, will result in greater value, cash value and death benefit for that 30-70 split. So let's do this. Cash value difference. This really helps individuals when they're just trying to figure out what type of design they want. So there we go. So this will display how much more or less you have with that 3070 design compared to the 1090 design. Let's scroll down. So until age 85, based on the non-guaranteed ledger in an illustration, the 1090 had more. That right there will result in people saying, hey, the 1090, I prefer that because I've got more start to finish. The argument, however, is if dividends go up, you should have more money sooner. Well, the question would be how much sooner? 10 years, that would put it at 75. 20 years, that would put you at 65 for an individual starting at age 40. 20 years would be dividends increasing and staying high for a long time. That would take quite a bit. But with all that said, like here's where I take issue with recommending this type of design. Because again, I'm making more money and saying to the client, you might have more long term. I keep saying might for a reason. Look at the guarantees. Let's do the same thing here. So the guaranteed values are the guarantees. What do you notice about this? Again, 3070, how much more or less I have in cash value compared to the 1090. What happens as time passes? Different story, isn't it? Less all the way through. So based on the non-guarantees, I might have more after 45 years. Based on the guarantees, I'll never have more. Which one do you prefer? I prefer the lower base premium because I have more out of the gates, which I view as an opportunity cost. But then based on what's guaranteed, I see more. And the big selling point for me personally is when you look at actual results, that low base premium design has delivered the strongest overall cash value. We've seen that. We have not seen it with higher base premiums. Here's an example. Because the whole argument behind a high base premium is it should result in higher dividends, which should push that long-term cash value higher. That's the argument. So here's a policy that was issued back in 2007, which was before I was even in the industry. In fact, 2007, I was a freshman in college. I graduated high school in 2006. So it's an old policy. We got this policy by attaining servicing rights from someone who had purchased it. He called me, we had a conversation. It was like 2016 or 17. He was frustrated because he was trying to figure out why the policy was not delivering what he was led to believe it would deliver. So what we were able to obtain from him was the original illustration. This we actually had to get from the insurance company that was signed by him. But then we were able to get in-force illustrations. Eventually, we got access to his online account, the advisor side, and we were able to download the historical values and such. But here was the original illustration in 2007, where the dividend interest rate was 6.75%. This policy is 100% base premium, which should result in what? An impact on the dividends going up, especially if the dividend rate increases. So here's what's interesting about this. First year, base premium dollars doesn't show up in cash value. Very similar to the product we just looked at. What actually happened? Nothing showed up in cash value. Okay. How about year two? Look what happened here. Dividend rate went up. With this old product, dividends were not paid in the first 2 years, regardless of what the dividend rate was. Okay, that's perfectly fine. But what's interesting about this? Look at your cash value. Why is it a little bit less? Interesting, isn't it? Next year, what actually happened? Dividend rate came up to 7.3%. The original illustration assumed a dividend of 6.75%. Pays is $24,000. Dividend $390. What he actually received, $390. If this is you and you're really examining your policy, what would you say here? Tell you what I would say. I'd say, wait a minute. I know this is what the original illustration showed, but this was 3 years ago, and that assumed the dividend was 6.75%. It's substantially higher than that now. Why is my dividend not higher? Especially when we go back to that argument that increasing dividends have a greater impact on the base premium. Like that's what we have yet to see based on actual results, not illustrations. Year 4, what do we see? Here's where it gets really interesting. The dividend is still higher. The actual dividend in year 4 is still higher than the original illustration, but the dividend payout is less, $1 less, but still it should not be less. It should be higher in this case when we look at it. What do we see? Stays low for quite some time, whereas that illustration really takes off. Now what happened is the dividend rate began to come back down, which really seemed to impact the policyholder. And then once he had a chunk of change, right, over $250,000 in cash value, we do see the dividends pick up the pace. What's highlighted in yellow represents his break-even point, what had actually happened over here between years 10 and 11. And this is not an ideal design. 100% base premium is not how to maximize cash value. But what it should illustrate is the point that if dividends go up based on the base premium, if I have 100% base, that should be much higher than what was illustrated, especially in the years where the dividend rate was higher than what the than what the illustrated dividend rate was, if that made sense. But I think you see my point here. The argument there, as far as a higher dividend, should support the logic behind going with the higher base premium because you could have more money long term. Yes, based on illustrations, you can make that argument. But where the discomfort on my end comes from is we do not want to put someone in that product with them under the belief that they'll have more money long term, and then it does not happen because of things like this or whatever occurs. Not to mention one of the favorite things about a low base premium is I can commit just to the base and add more discretion. So the lower the base, the more flexibility I have, which I know a lot of people, particularly business owners and real estate investors, really enjoy. This way the policy never feels like a burden. So I hope this was helpful. If you enjoyed it, please hit the like button, subscribe for more. If you have any questions, please feel free to leave them in the comments below. And as always, I hope this helps. Thanks so much. Hey guys, Steve here with IBC Global. Thank you so much for watching the video. If you're interested in a whole life insurance policy and you'd like to work with our company in setting it up, please visit our website, ibcglobalinc.com. We would love to work with you. If you have any questions, please leave them in the comments below. And as always, I hope this helps.